a conservative media push to make sure Trump didn't win, suck on that, losers. I think they would point to that as Democrats doing the same thing by a different name.
Gotcha. Do you know any other any other conservatives that would fight on the J6 insurrection point itself, or no?
Oh yeah, I mean, like if you were looking for somebody specifically to fight, then yeah, I mean, Endernax, I'm sure Rob Knorr.
Rob says he's available at 9.
Yeah.
Is there anybody that's free right now that wants to hop in and chat?
Not that I know of. No.
What was the one guy you said? You said Endermax?
Endernax. He's an old friend of mine. Unfortunately, he went schizophrenic in the past year and turned into a Christian nationalist, like really hardcore. But he's probably just going to simp for Donald Trump and say that whatever laws he broke was based.
Okay.
Is it your heart was set on that specific framing?
Well, I think so, because I have a debate with, I think, Alex Jones and Glenn Greenwald in a week relating to J6 stuff. I'm guessing both of them are going to take the contrary position. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I could still prep you for that off of what I've seen. I'm still swimming in those circles.
Is there any possible, because I just started reading the actual J6 Commission for the first time, and holy shit. I'm so curious, like, what possible opposite side could possibly exist to any of this. I'm just so curious. That isn't a whataboutism about Trump, or I'm sorry, that isn't a whataboutism about BLM or Obama or anything else, like just in terms of this particular issue.
Oh, hell yeah. So, yeah, I can articulate this relatively well. If it gets boring for you, just let me know. I'll jump off, but I still think I can articulate this.
Okay, yeah.
So what's gonna happen, what I think a lot of people is going to happen, is they're going to point to the beginnings of Crossfire Hurricane, the media leaks about Russia, Russian ties to Trump, et cetera, et cetera. They're going to view that as Hillary Clinton and her cronies leaking that information intentionally in order to fuck up his potential election in 2016. I think that they're also going to point to the deep state, that, you know, with Alex Jones in particular, this is going to be huge. The deep state no longer represents the true will of the American people. So the institution was threatened by somebody who would get us out of all these forever wars and wars on behalf of Israel, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know if Alex Jones will go for wars for Israel, but people around him would. Do you have any objections to that so far, or should I keep going?
Well, yeah, I want to know in regards to very specifically, like, was J6 an insurrection driven by false information that Trump knowingly propagated? That's like the thesis, yeah.
No, what they would say is that none of these things were properly investigated, and everyone who ruled against the Trump stuff was basically sympathetic, and that the lawyers who have now pled guilty or whatever, they were basically intimidated out of... intimidated out of truly doing their jobs.
Sure. So hold on real quick. Lex says, for a debate with Shapiro on topic of Trump versus Biden, how big of your argument against Trump and for Biden is Jan 6? I personally would think that this would be solely disqualifying. I don't know how much Shapiro wants to spend on J6, but it'll probably be a decent chunk, because I know that Shapiro takes the position that Trump is no more authoritarian than any other Democratic president. So if he wants to argue over this, I will, especially now that I have a lot more information about it. But so how would they respond to the idea that, like, for the J6 Commission, the majority of the people that were contacted were Republicans? It was Trump's chiefs of staff. It was Trump's attorney generals.
They're rhinos. They're deep state operatives.
Every single one of these people is a deep state operative. Every single person that Trump picked for his campaign, every single lawyer, every single White House staff, every single cabinet member, every single...
Yeah, it's the uniparty. So this isn't my belief, by the way. I'm articulating these things for the sake of contention, right? Mm-hmm. The concept is that since World War II, the United States has been controlled by the military-industrial complex and three-letter agencies. So when you look at our interventions in Vietnam, when you look at the JFK assassination, when you look at our seizure of interest in the Middle East and North Africa, all of this was to create a global commercial empire that no longer advocates in the interest of the United States as a nation. And so what's happened is, when you see things like mass immigration, when you see things like wars in the Middle East, when you see things like America's unquestioned support for Israel, this isn't the individual interest of the United States. This is the globo homo uniparty globalist cabal.
All right.
Do you know what the problem with that is, though?
Everything.
Well,
I mean, my
no,
biggest
they're kind
problem
of-
with it is
they're
that
kind of right.
well, but not in the way they say they are.
Sure, but at the same time, like if you look at America's like foreign policy or whatever, we're not acting in the individual national interests of the United States. We're acting on behalf of a $65 trillion commercial empire.
That might be the case, but we're also acting generally in accordance with the democratic will of the American people, no? Like, I feel like
Well,
our democratic regime is pretty responsive to public opinion when it comes to, like, why did we leave Vietnam? Or why did we, like, why didn't we intervene as much in Syria? Why didn't we intervene as much for... I don't know.
Yeah, but
go ahead, sorry.
But they would argue that the Uniparty has consistently lied people into conflict, and when we have avoided conflict, it's almost through luck and also like a lack of American interest. So if there was sufficient geopolitical interest to be on the ground in Syria or Libya, we would have been. We just didn't have the popular will or international will to do that kind of stuff. But ultimately, the Americans argue how much we should be involved in Syria versus the fundamental question of why the fuck are we in Syria at all?
And if I push for proof on any of this, it's just going to be all circular narrative building, right?
Well, I mean, I would relatively say so, but then I think what you need to do, just from me to you, I'm not a neoliberal, globalist, cosmopolitan person, but at the same time, I think what you would need to do is you would need to say that the new global order with America at the helm is in America's interest. So having kind of like a new Roman Empire of which America is the foundation is actually in our national interest. That having Funko Pops and PlayStations and cheap oil and, the world's cuisine at your fingertips is actually something good for the American people. I mean, I've heard you do this for years. Like when you had anti-immigrant people like Lauren Southern and other anti-immigrant people, you argued for the fact that you're like, well, cuisine is a huge part of culture. Like immigrants are a huge part of the American story. You've argued this in the past. You're just going to have to do it again.
Yeah, it just feels really cucked and boring and like the laziest bullshit in the world.
Well, I mean,
okay.
What you can't hit the popular notes from Destiny circa 2018.
It's just boring to me. I'd rather like fight on the facts or like have like an actual intricate, nuanced conversation related to certain things, not like the general globo homo debates back and forth. But
sure. Well, but then you can wrestle them to the ground and go over details. But I'm going to largely agree with you. If you look at it, I don't know how much of the January 6th testimony that you've actually watched, but the one that was particularly damning for me was the attorneys general. Have you seen that yet?
I'm literally on page 54 of the executive summary, and then I've read a couple other small sections. I'll probably just read the entire executive summary and then dive into the more specifics if I need to. But which part of the Attorney General? You mean Barr's statements? Which ones? The ones that Barr is making about... oh, sorry, go ahead.
The ones, I think after Barr left, it was basically whoever was left in the department leading up to January 6th. So probably about 30 days out from January 6th. This is the effective narrative. Are you okay with me saying the narrative in my own thing? I know sometimes you like to get it without color. Okay. So the narrative that I heard or watched from their direct testimony to Congress, which I thought was damning, was effectively that Trump was not willing to go down. He wasn't listening to anybody from the GBI in Georgia, which is the Georgia Bureau of Investigations. He wasn't listening to the DOJ when they said that a majority of his fraud stuff was all bullshit. And so what he was considering, or what he asked the Attorney General to do multiple times, was draft a letter that they were going to release publicly saying that there was fraud in XYZ key states that were going to be necessary for Trump to win or at least contest the elections or the results of the election. The attorneys general said, we already investigated the fraud that you alleged. It's all baseless so far, and the stuff that we have found would not change the nature of the election. Therefore, we're not going to do that letter.
Yeah.
Trump at that point then he's considering this. He's considering firing the attorney general and like the deputy attorney general, and then hiring somebody who has never done criminal law before. He's actually an environmental lawyer who works in their bureau for some reason, but he's like 15 down the chain.